Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, and welcome back to all those returning subscribers. Today, we have a really interesting what if. As we know from the Android saga, Goku and crew had the option to take out the androids before they even became a threat, but decided not to and trained instead. A lot of people have wondered what would happen if they took the opportunity and killed the androids right away. However, I'm going to do something like that, but a little different. See, you may see the title and think, the androids are already good though, aren't they? Well, yeah, they are. But originally, they weren't. They started out as enemies just like anyone else. And in this video, I want to take a look at what would happen if these androids were turned good instead of just being evil from the start. And by androids, this will include Cell as well. So let's get into it. Forgive me for making this a little headcanon-y, but I do have to take liberties here like I do in some other what-ifs. Besides, all what-ifs are basically headcanon already, aren't they? From the main timeline, we saw that Android 16 basically underwent the same conditions. All of the Kill Goku objectives were erased from his mind, and because of Bulma's programming, 16 wasn't really a threat like before. Now, what if that happened to all of the androids? The whole plot of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z remains the same up until when Trunks arrives and informs everyone of the androids. Rather than waiting to fight them, it's decided to try to track them down early. The hunt begins with some brainstorming done. Trunks describes both androids as wearing some red symbol on them with 2 R's on it, and Goku knows that this is the Red Ribbon Army. This is a little confusing because Goku thought he destroyed them all, so maybe one of them ended up making it out. After giving all the info he can, Trunks returns to his timeline and with help from Bulma, research begins on every possible Red Ribbon Army suspect. Trunks is going to return because he wants to make sure this all goes right. The search lands on someone named Dr. Gero, and they find the general location of his lab. Everyone splits up around this area and tries to search for it. After some time passes during the search, one search group consisting of Krillin and Piccolo arrive at the lab, but it seems kind of dark and empty. In the back of one of the rooms, Krillin spots an old man huddled over a table with sparks flying and mechanical parts whirring. Dr. Gero is in the process of building some sort of device. Piccolo wastes no time. He shouts out to the man and asks if he's Gero. Gero confirms this, and feeling threatened, he runs towards the 3 pods on the other side of the room to activate the androids as defense. Thinking quickly, Krillin charges a Destructo Disc and flings it at the doctor, cutting him in half. Gero isn't an android at this point, and 19 isn't created because that device he was working on was actually the energy absorption device, so this Destructo Disc actually works. So, because he's not an android, of course, this Destructo Disc wound is fatal, and Gero is done with. Piccolo prepares to destroy the android pods, but Krillin stops him. Krillin ends up getting the idea that maybe Bulma could reprogram these androids, and they don't need to kill them. They could end up making new allies for all they know. The other Z fighters arrive after hearing the commotion, and everyone sees what happens, and they end up agreeing with Krillin since this could benefit them. They look through the lab to see if they can find any blueprints that could be useful. Gohan stumbles upon some pod filled with liquid, and he calls everyone to come look at it. In this chamber, a green creature is floating around in it, and they see his pod is labeled as Cell. They look through all of the blueprints they found, and rummaging through them, they find out that there's actually another android here, and this is him. Although he's built a little bit differently than the other ones, he's a bio-android with the DNA of some of the Z fighters, and Frieza. Everyone carefully gathers the 4 pods up, and they bring them to Capsule Corp for further research. Bulma and Dr. Briefs work together to find out everything they can about these androids, because it's pretty fascinating. 16 is pretty easy to reprogram since he's all mechanical, and it pretty much goes the same as it did in canon, with the bomb being removed from him and him being reprogrammed. However, 17 and 18 are a little different. The 2 scientists realize that these aren't robots, they're cyborgs, they're actual people. They were probably turned into androids unwillingly by Gero and programmed with directives and maliciousness that they didn't have originally. Unlike 16, this brings up an ethical dilemma. Bulma can't just reprogram to be whatever they want like 16, since that would basically be removing their free will as a human. She and Dr. Briefs have morals unlike Gero, and wouldn't want to just change these guys into Capsule Corp slaves. They remove any directives from Gero about killing Goku and any other malicious pieces to their personality, but they don't want to reprogram the androids completely like 16. Their bombs are also removed as well, and their personalities are reverted to what they were before Gero got a hold of them, although they're now pretty good. But like I mentioned, Bulma didn't really just want to change their personalities completely, so they're still basically rowdy teenagers at heart like they were originally. So while they're not malicious anymore, they still have their free will, and the way they react to all of these events is completely unpredictable, even though they're good, so they're not really that trustworthy. The 3 androids are then left in the pods for the time being as they're being, well, updated. Cell is also a completely different case. The technology and the process of Cell's creation fascinates the 2 doctors, but there's one thing that doesn't really make sense. See, one thing that also never really made sense to me, which I want to include here, why wasn't Cell made to be perfect right away? Why did he need the androids? And as a side note, I couldn't really find anything on this either. Maybe I'm missing something, but a lot of people seem to speculate that it's because Cell is Jiro's side project, and he never thought he needed Cell, and Cell would just get rid of the androids and do the job for them if necessary, but Jiro probably never even saw that as necessary. Let me know below if you have any info or ideas on why he wasn't just made to be perfect in the first place, considering Jiro already knew what perfection would be like, but he didn't make him that to start with, which doesn't really make sense to me. Anyways, Bulma sees this and decides to tweak Cell. The bad parts of Cell, like Frieza's personality and the like, are removed. His personality is tweaked to be good, and more of the DNA of the Z-Fighters are added to him, like Gohan, Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha. Why are Bulma and Dr. Briefs doing this? Well, they realize Cell's immense power, and adding this DNA will make him fully aligned with the Z-Fighters, while retaining the power of Cold and Frieza without their evil personality. In a way, this is kind of like how Tony Stark created Ultron in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for any of you Marvel fans out there. I mean, Ultron eventually became evil, but Tony Stark intended to make someone who could defend Earth, which is kind of what Cell is like here in a way. Not entirely, but I just wanted to make that connection because it's something I noticed while writing the script. With all of the Z-Fighters present for assurance, the androids are awoken, except for Cell. 16 is of course trustworthy and good, but 17 and 18 are the ones that they're worried about. Actually, in this timeline, they're not even called 17 and 18. Given that Bulma tried to make them as normal as they could be, they're actually not referred to as 17 and 18, they're called by their real names, Lapis and Lazuli, respectively, instead of their android identity. Instead of just being enhanced expendable assassins created by Jiro for revenge, they're just enhanced humans now. Bulma informs the 2 about what happened to them and how they were found and attempted to be recovered, and they're fine now but still have those android enhancements. They're actually a little bit excited to hear this, as they see this as being given superpowers. Remember, they are portrayed as being some sort of rebellious teenagers, which they still are like now, but they don't have the malicious intent that they had before. Of course, they're angered that this was ever done to them in the first place, but grateful that everyone around them tried to help them. They're still kinda in shock though, and overall don't really know how to react, given that they were basically kidnapped by a mad scientist and augmented, and they've been in a coma for a while. While they were excited at first, they're now rethinking everything as reality begins to hit them. But, as this video intended, the androids aren't bad now, they're good. They're pretty much akin to how they act currently in Dragon Ball Super, being a little blunt, straightforward, and sometimes a little bit rowdy, but they're actually good people. And with 16 being there as well, we still have him basically being the same. He still likes nature and wants to be kind of peaceful, and he ends up residing at Capsule Corp for the time being, with 17 and 18 being offered the same thing, but they end up going off on their own. And yes, Krillin does still get attracted to 18 and tries to make a move on her, and it actually kind of works. So they do keep in contact, even though the twins do leave and go off to be their own people, kind of like they were before they got enhanced. At this point of the awakening of the androids, we'll say 6 months have passed since Trunks' arrival, so this is happening like 2.5 years before the androids were supposed to awaken and Trunks returns. He did know about their plan to find the androids, but in case they couldn't, like I said before, Trunks decided that he would still return in 3 years just in case, so he can help them fight the mechanical menaces. Everyone still does train in this time period, just less intensely than normal. You may be wondering why I didn't mention Cell being awoken. Well, let's get into that. See, Cell wasn't like the other androids. He was being grown in a tube, not built. Bulma and Dr. Briefs, after making him sort of heroic and morally guided in the right direction, they attempted to speed up his growth as much as possible. They had better resources and technology than Jiro, and they had all of Jiro's knowledge. Besides, Cell was a side project for Jiro, while he was pretty much the main project at Capsule Corp, so they spent more time on him. And his growth process was sped up, but not completely. It takes him about 2 years to hatch, quote-unquote, after he was found. And everyone is waiting patiently in the meantime. Goku especially, since he sees Cell as potentially being an amazing training partner. The time passes, and one day in Capsule Corp, while working, Bulma is alerted about something happening to that project she was working on with her father, and she realizes what's going on. Everyone senses an immense power and heads over to Capsule Corp. From the pod, a large figure steps out. looking calm but somewhat confused. He is speechless and he doesn't really know what's happening, since this is basically him being born when you think about it. In a state of awe, Cell looks up as he sees everyone begin to gather around him, realizing who they are and what he is and what's happening. He turns back to the pod and looks at a reflection of himself on the glass, and he recognizes something. He sees perfection. With his face of confusion turning to a sincere smile, Cell turns around and gives a deep sigh of relief as he closes his eyes and faces everyone. He proclaims, "I am perfect." Given that he has all the maliciousness removed, and the fact that he's perfect by default, Cell has no objective right now, and no imperfections in his conscience, no pun intended. He was born as a happy bioandroid, completely content. Remember how I compared him to Ultron before? Well, kind of imagine him now as being like Vision, an all-powerful being brought into existence as a force for good. Cell opens his eyes again, and he sees in front of him all of the Z-Fighters that made his DNA, his brothers and sister. Bulma added some of her DNA to add knowledge to the bioandroid for good measure. It's never a bad thing to have an intelligent fighter on their side. And there we have it. The androids and Cell are good. But this arc isn't over yet. You see, the Cell we have here is one from our present timeline, who was originally destroyed as an embryo. What about the Cell we know? He's still sulking around somewhere. Remember, he's from another alternate timeline where he killed Trunks and stole a time machine to come to the past and achieve perfection. But he's in for a big surprise, and Trunks will return soon, and we'll get into both of those in the next part. Given that the androids are good, with 16 and Cell basically being new Z-Fighters, what do you think is going to happen next time? How will this new Cell develop as a character and learn? How will the other androids develop? He's kind of a fresh slate now, despite having some basic knowledge of who he is and a basic personality. The same goes for 16 too, as Bulma made him a little more intelligent or human-like now. So comment your thoughts and I'll take them all into account. I really want to see how these characters are going to develop in the eyes of my subscribers. Of course, thank you all for watching. Remember to drop a like, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I make a new part for this series or any other of my videos. Thank you all, and I'll see you on the next video.